Welcome to the 359. I'm Alfred Ng.
I am Dan Ackerman.
If you're watching this video on YouTube and from a non-Chrome browser, things could be loading real slow for you. Please don't blame us for that. It turns out that a Google redesign has made YouTube load 5 times slower on Firefox and Edge, at least according to Chris Peterson, a Mozilla technical program manager. YouTube's redesign relies on an API that's only found in Chrome, and it means it takes much longer to load if you're not using it. Peterson recommended a Firefox extension called YouTube Classic that you could use to fix the slow loading times. But honestly, is there anything that riles people up more than, slow loading times?
Well, it's this browser platform war. That's the next big battleground. It was years ago. IE versus Firefox, and going even back before that, Chrome was winning for a long time. But the guys who make the hardware have an upper hand here. If you buy a MacBook, it comes with Safari, and that's it. And if you buy a Windows laptop or PC, it comes with the Windows Edge.
Yeah,
with IE buried somewhere in there.
So do you think that they did this on purpose, though, to get more people to use Chrome? I mean, it's already the most popular browser online with like 59% of web usage. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Because Edge has a huge, dare I say Edge, because you just buy a laptop, and if you don't know there are other browsers you can get, you just use that.
I feel like most people use Edge to download Chrome, though.
That's power users like us. That's people who unpack 2 or 3 new laptops a week like me, 100%.
Yeah.
But, Edge has advantages too. But here's the thing. We've done a bunch of testing. And if you're on a Mac and you have Safari, or if you're on a Windows machine and you have Edge, you actually do get more efficient use of your system, and it could make your battery life longer. That said, Chrome is generally speaking less annoying. So you got to trade that off.
So next up, Facebook finally launched Watch Party, its group watching feature that it announced on F8. Think about it like watching live videos with friends that you invite on Messenger or just on Facebook in general, like being in a living room watching Jeopardy together or football. I remember doing something similar to this before Facebook. My friends and I would just be in an AIM chat room and watch wrestling together on like Monday nights, and then just chat about it there. I just feel like this is kind of like the next step on it, and I'm curious how many people would actually use it.
Who's got time for this?
Teens.
What are you talking about? They're watching a video and they're in like a chat room together?
Yeah.
Or are they in like a multi-video chat with all their little teen heads in it?
I'm pretty sure it's the first one, which is exactly what we're doing right now on YouTube.
Right.
So.
I mean...
But this one's like you invite your friends only, whereas like ours is like live and a whole bunch of people can come to it. It'd be like if I only wanted like me, you, and Brian to watch like the show together, which is kind of like what our audience is already.
I will say, to put aside the snark for a minute, everyone is trying to capture one particular scientific, psychological concept, which is the social utility of the shared experience. And people are trying to package that in different ways, and this is what we would call a remote symmetrical experience. So it's happening in different places at the same time. You can have an asymmetrical, remote experience, or, it's like Words with Friends, for example, is something that happens at the same place, but at different times.
Yeah.
With different people. Going to a museum together is a symmetrical local experience.
So finally, Apple released a patch for its MacBook Pro, allowing it to go at its full potential now. There were reports of heat issues leading to slowed performances, which Apple acknowledged and supposedly fixed with this bug. Now, Dan, you've taken a look at this, and
yes,
yeah,
can
you tell us more about it?
You can see that's what's not supposed to happen. That's the clock frequency and the internal temperature. That's what is supposed to happen. It's pretty stable. You're running a big video rendering task. You're running a game benchmark loop, which is what we were doing right there. I've got the new Core i9 MacBook right here. And in our initial testing, we didn't notice this issue. Neither did Apple, because our tests were fairly short. They don't take a long time to run. If you're rendering a video for an hour, you were going to get this crazy up and down spike on these new ones, which is not good. It basically means the CPU thinks it's overheating, clocks down its speed to not be as good, not run as fast, and then when it cools off, it goes back up, and you get this crazy ping pong. It's shocking that this got out the door from Apple in this condition, that it took basically, YouTube people and other people on Reddit to like notice this was happening. And they were the first guys who went out and spent $4,000 or $5,000 on these. Right. And they're like, what's happening here? Apple, to their credit, said, you guys found it. We looked into it. It was actually just a little software bug that was causing this to happen. Here's a patch that fixed it. I downloaded the patch. I ran it again. Looks like it works okay now. So it wasn't really overheating. It just kind of thought it was. But that's messed up.
Yeah, well, that's all the time we have. If you liked what you heard, check us out on CNET. I'm Alfred Ng.
I'm still Dan.
Thanks for listening. Over by a minute. That's not bad. We did it.
Listen, there's a lot to go over here. If we cut out all that, I said to the Bedfox group, if we cut out everyone saying their name 50 times, we'd have like 7 more seconds of high quality
But
content.
Dan, we're still live, and people want to know your name because we get a lot of new viewers often.
Yeah.
So,
Ready.
Just case in point. Also,
no, it's true,
stop
it's true.
slouching.
Me?
Yes.
You were
Oh,
like
I'm
kind of
relaxed.
off camera. I was noticing.
Why is this night different from all other nights? I'm reclining. Okay, I'm back.
So, anyways,
why I'm taking
as
my
always, it's
soda
time
so
to
early.
jump into the chat, take your questions and comments about the topics that we discussed today. So, Dan, what you're trying to say in summation is spikes are bad.
In this particular case, yes. You want your machine to act smooth and easy, and just like a gentle wave, not like an earthquake. Ching, 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 like that.
We're going by Sonic the Hedgehog rules right now. So yeah,
You don't want that.
You land on a spike and you lose all your gold rings.
Not in Sonic Mania Plus, you don't.
What happens when you land on a spike there?
If you play as Mighty the Armadillo, you bounce.
What the hell is Mighty the... I'm talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. That's a completely different game, dude. Come on.
No, not a completely different game. Come on, get with it. You play enough Smash, you should know Sonic Mania.
I don't know who Armadillo Man is. What is
I
that?
thought it was a game guy, but you guys just lost me.
Anyways, so let's talk a little bit more about the Macs. You seem to have a lot to say, Dan. I definitely want to know more about it. So I'm confused. You say that it thought it was overheating. So what exactly does that mean? Like, is that just it's reading something wrong?
Right.
Is it
Apple
translating
claims
its own
there was
language
a
wrong?
missing bit of software, a missing key in a driver somewhere that made the machine feel like it had to clock down the frequency speed of the processor, even the super high-end Core i9 processor, to bring the system temperature down, at which point it would go, oh, the temperature's down. I can go back to being full speed again. And it would go back up and go, oh, I'm too hot. I got to cool down again. And it would go back down again. And that's why you had that spike. But in reality, now at first glance, when people started to notice this, one guy said, oh, this is crazy. He did a YouTube video where he put the MacBook in a freezer, and there it ran more evenly. And people thought, you know what? This is the first time we're seeing this Intel Core i9, this 6-core processor, in the same MacBook Pro. That's not any thicker, doesn't have any extra fans or anything. It's made of aluminum. Maybe it doesn't have adequate cooling, and they just shoved too much processor into a very thin aluminum body, and it's just overheating. And that is a huge, huge, huge design flaw, and we can't believe that would happen.
But it wasn't
now,
that,
that's
right?
the worst case
Yeah.
scenario. It turns out that does not seem to have been the case. That's what people were panicking about. The reality is still very bad, but it's not unfixable. The reality is that there is adequate cooling as far as we can tell for this Core i9 so far, but there was a software bug that caused it to freak out and go faster, slower, faster, slower, faster, slower, after you're doing something like encoding a 4K video or playing running a 3D game benchmark for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, into half an hour. After a while, it would go, whoa, I'm freaking out, man. Freaking out.
What if it's just doing high intensity training though?
Yeah, right?
Like
It's doing a
hit
lot of
training.
reps.
Yeah.
It gets stronger. So Apple said in rare form, now usually if something goes wrong with your Apple product, they may say, you're using it wrong. You're holding the phone wrong. User error. Or the keyboards,
You should be using it in a
they'll
freezer
punt
at
on
all
it.
times.
Yes, yeah. We will sell you a portable mini fridge. But that was not the case. To their credit, they spent a weekend looking at it. These things just came out like July 12th, 13th, something like that. So people were just starting to buy them and discovered the problem immediately. So Apple, to their credit, within a week or so, said, okay, we looked at it. We found this software problem. We're fixing it. It's a little download. Install it. You're good to go. I did that. I ran the same test again. The results went back to normal. So I am much more pleased now. But it should not have gotten to this point. And if you buy one of these at a store now, you're still going to have to download the update because they don't have new they don't have the new software build pre-built into this yet. You're going to have to wait a couple weeks for those to get into the retail channel.
That's what
if
I
you
love
order
doing.
one online, it'll probably have the patch on.
That's what I love doing whenever I spend $4,000 on a
listen,
product.
these things
How do I
start
fix it?
at $24.99 for the 15-inch. This configuration with the Core i9 and a 2 terabyte hard drive is like $4,600, and they go up to $6,000 plus. And they need an out-of-the-box patch.
Yay.
To do the kind of stuff that if you're the guy who's buying this, that's the stuff you're doing. You're shooting in 4K or higher resolutions, and you're rendering it down, and you're encoding, and you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. That's where this bug kicked in. So clearly, Apple should have had a more intense set of benchmark tests in their own lab to discover this before the product shipped.
Do we have any questions?
Strenjoy's calling Dan out. Says running a 3D game benchmark. Nice save, Dan.
What did I say?
You originally said playing, and then you adjusted to running to make it sound more professional.
I will get over that somehow.
Yeah. Apex says, do we really think it's software, or they just didn't put enough inside to properly cool the new device?
Yeah, that's what the issue was. However, now I'm able to run it at very high, 3 gigahertz and above clock speeds, and the temperature remains, high 80s within normal range. Even when it was throttling, the temperature wasn't actually getting that high. It just kind of thought the actual temperature was not really that high. It maybe hit 99 or 100 at peaks, but that shouldn't, cause it to freak out like that. Independently from Apple, the morning Apple released the patch a few hours before, some guy on Reddit stumbled across essentially what the problem was, and he had a software hack to adjust it also. He took a different approach to it, kind of like a side door into tricking the system to not fall for that false impression that it needed to clock down. So independent people came to the same conclusion as Apple.
What goes into your high performance test when you were testing it out after?
Well,
the
we
patch?
had our regular testing in Geekbench and Cinebench and running some video encoding. They generally don't take half an hour or more to do because we got a lot of things to do, man. And they're the same tests we run on every laptop, and they're usually very reliable and tell us what's happening. And in this case, this machine scored fine before the patch, and we're like, okay. But when we found out this was an issue, we went back and devised a quick test that would take longer. So we took a 4K video, like an ultra high definition video, and we encoded it to open in QuickTime. And that conversion process took 15, plus minutes. And that definitely set off the spike. And then, there are not a lot of games or games with benchmark. You can't run 3D Mark on a Mac, for example. We ran Tomb Raider, which is a cross-platform Mac PC game. There's a benchmark built in that you can run, and then it will just keep going. It'll just keep running over and over again. And we set everything to like super high on that to really, tax the system. And we let that run for a while, and that started spiking. Then I downloaded the patch after it was available at about 1 p.m. Eastern yesterday, and I did the same test, no spikes. And I think we had some images. If anybody really wants to see, you can go to CNET and find my article, and you'll see the before and after. First, you'll see one illustration that has the spiky 2018 next to the non-spiky 2017 Core i7 MacBook Pro, so same model from last year. Core i7 did not have that problem. That's one chart. And then in the next illustration, I put the spiky 2018 pre-patch next to the non-spiky 2018 post-patch. Look, there we go.
Am I showing the right thing?
Let's see. That is probably on the left. It's probably the 2017.
Here's a closer
MacBook
version
Pro.
behind you.
Yeah, that on the left is the 2017 MacBook Pro. See, the clock speed remains high. Doesn't move that much. The surface temperature is fine. And on the right side of the screen is the 2018, and you can see it's freaking the fudge out. And that's not supposed to happen. Now, after I applied the patch, you'll see the next illustration. That is the spiky right there on the left.
Literally a mirror image.
Is after. Yeah, I moved that one over, as explained in the caption, because, I'm not a data infographic designer. I just did this myself. And on the right is what happened after I applied the patch. Much more normal looking performance. That is, again, what you would expect. And look how high it gets. It's peaking up to like 4 and change. This is a base clock speed of 2.9 gigahertz in the Core i9, which is the same 2.9 that's in the Core i7. But again, it can spike higher, and it's a 6-core chip instead of a quad-core chip.
Extremely helpful. Thank you, Dan.
I do my best.
Let's fly through some more questions.
Yeah.
From APEC, here we go. Do we really think it's software or... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong one.
Yeah.
We already read that one.
I
Isn't
think
it
so.
still not reaching its full core potential clock speed even after the update? And does it still bottleneck?
That's a good question. In our initial tests, it seems like it's doing pretty good. You saw it. It was going up to, it was hitting peaks above 4 gigahertz. I don't have any other Core i9 systems to compare it to yet. It's still a very new chip. I actually have just unboxed one. It's an Acer Predator gaming laptop that has a Core i9. So we're going to see what that one can do. And that's a much bigger system with gigantic fans, and it's huge. And you turn it on, and it goes, because it's cooling itself, because it's a gaming laptop. And we'll test that one too. Stay tuned.
From Maniac618, did the tests after the patch speed up or stay the same? I think we kind of just covered that.
Now, this just happened yesterday, so we were mostly looking at what the clock speed did and what the system temperature did. However, we went back and reran our official tests, and we did not notice a difference.
Got it. From Srindroy again, how is the color profile on the screen? What's the accuracy percentage?
That is a good question. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. However, the screen is different from previous MacBook Pro screens in that it is a True Tone screen, which means it's got the same True Tone technology built in that you find on the iPhones and the iPads, which means it's got a little light sensor somewhere in there that adjusts the screen color temperature, basically the white balance level, to what's around you. So if you're in a room with cold light like this, it'll be bluer. If you're in a warmer lit room, it'll look a little warmer, a little more yellowish. The theory behind that is, especially if you're a designer or something, you want the colors that you see on the screen to match what you're seeing around you in the world. The difference is subtle. If you go back and look at the video for the 15-inch MacBook Pro that we did, we do a little demo of that, turning the True Tone off and on. It's subtle, but it's there.
Would you recommend buying a new i9 if somebody already has the 2017 i7?
No. What? No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Don't buy anything ever.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. Let me do it like my mother. No.
Is the software patch for the MacBook actually similar to the mitigation for the battery issue on the iPhone?
Don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's different. Like, those are two different.
Yeah, this
softwares.
is like literally missing a little warning sign that says it was missing something that basically made the CPU think it needed to throttle down when it didn't. So different. And we live in a world of patches. We live in a world of day one patches. That's a good video game analogy. Any game you buy now has a day one patch. You get whatever, you get a console game, a PC game, whatever it is. Day one, there's a giant patch for it already because they go to press with it and it's still not ready yet, and they keep working on it. It's good in a way because you get a better product in the end, but it's bad in a way because it teaches companies that they can ship incomplete products.
Yeah, overall, there's no good to that whatsoever. Let's move on to YouTube from Josh Boyda. Do you think that the YouTube slowdown was deliberate or just an issue that Google actually wholesomely, honestly did not notice?
And are they promising, you know this story better than I do, are they promising to fix it?
They haven't responded to our request for comments.
Have they responded to anybody's?
If they did,
I can't believe they would stay silent on this.
If they did, I have not found it yet. But
it can't be deliberate because that's a huge, that's why people have antitrust issues.
Yeah. But the other thing is, like, it's crazy to me that they would do this whole redesign and not consider people on other browsers. You know, like oh, we put this like API in Chrome, but oh wait, we completely forgot about.
We forgot to test it, just like Apple forgot to test the MacBook rendering like an hour-long, 4K video or 5K video or higher or something else. Maybe there's a rush to put products out there and not enough time for testing, which is, dare I say, why I'm so, happy to be working here with this great group of people that we have here, where we dedicate the time and effort and manpower to performance testing and other kinds of testing on all kinds of products, whether it's televisions or computers or phones. We're one of the only organizations that actually has, dedicated testing and product review teams. And, when people say, why is it important that you do that? Well, this is why it's important.
Yeah, either this was done on purpose or this was an incredibly stupid oversight on their behalf as in terms of the redesign.
You'll never catch them saying they did it on purpose unless Michael Cohn is their lawyer and he taped it.
Woof. Okay, so we're running out of time. Let's go back to the YouTube issue again from Joel G. Here's a great point to be made. We talk about comparing Chrome to Firefox because they are the top contenders out there as far as browsers go.
Hey, Edge is also a browser.
Well, that's a point that we're going to make here. The Edge is still used by millions.
Edge is not terrible.
It's not terrible. Internet Explorer is poor.
Yes.
B. Eder in the chat says, I can't get my Internet Explorer on YouTube anymore. That's a grave you dug yourself.
Not really a problem.
For the YouTube issue, does this only impact non-Chromium-based browsers? This is from Joel. They say that they use Vivaldi by the Opera team, and that uses Chromium, and they're not seeing any slowdowns on their end.
Yeah, so the redesign with YouTube, basically, it relies on an API that's only implemented in Chrome, which I assume would include Chromium. So yeah, this really only applies to, non-Chromium browsers.
All right. To round things out, let's talk a little bit about this Facebook Watch thing. APEC recalls back to when Xbox had Group Watch for Netflix and other movies. That was my favorite thing.
Really?
I used to love that because I have so many friends that are still upstate, hence all the Buffalo paraphernalia around me. And we would get on...
What a wonderful life!
We would get on Netflix to catch up and put on a movie and just yell at each other like we used to drunkenly do on the couch at college. And I even liked the fact it was so lame. It's such an aesthetic, stupid, lame thing. But they had the little avatars in the front of the screen that looked like Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I like that. Okay, I admit I like that. I do more live tweeting with people while shows are on. That's more my speed.
You're accomplishing basically the same concept.
It's kind of the same thing.
I like sitting back with a headset and talking like they're in the room.
I think it's just more of a closed circle now, though. It's like same thing with what was going on with Xbox, where on Twitter, that's like everybody. Like you have to hear everyone's input on The Bachelor, whereas on something like Watch Party or what was available with Xbox, like it's just like you and your friends. You can you don't have to care about like what some rando just pops up.
All the productive things these people could be doing instead. Has anyone tried reading a book?
Book party,
book club. We should have one of those. And I will say to clarify, Brian, I probably was more bougie. I lived in Amherst.
That's fine, but everybody likes to watch a movie once in a while.
Yeah. Just without other people yik-yakking in my ear.
That wasn't the point. This was more like a group phone
call.
I
know.
But anyways, Burton LTD says the problem with Facebook Watch Party is that it's only videos that are on Facebook, which is never anything you want to watch apart from short clips. If you could upload your own videos, that would be great. I would agree that they should partner out to other streaming services like a YouTube or a Netflix or a Hulu or any other place that actually has good video content.
Yeah, I think
that's a good point.
I think the goal is for them to, build more content. Like they had all their new hub for original shows called like Facebook Watch. There's no content on there that I've seen that's like worth watching right now. Like one of them that I see shared on my Facebook feed a lot is what's that show that was on MTV, like Rob Dyrdek or whatever, where it's basically Tosh.0 but not Tosh.0, and he just takes viral clips from the internet, and like that's it. It's just like a stream of viral clips already.
I have a horrible confession to make.
I don't think you should do it on this show.
I'm going to do it anyway because you mentioned it. My guiltiest of guilty pleasures in terms of media is Tosh.0. I cannot get enough of that show. It is the exact opposite of every other type of media I consume. I love it.
It's just
I binge
compilations of.
He's so funny.
It's America's funniest home
video.
It's
also wrong.
Online. Yeah.
I'm like, let's see what's on PBS. Oh, Tosh.0. Let's go.
It's on PBS now.
You heard it here first, folks. Dan Ackerman has a guilty pleasure.
Oh my God! It's my other guilty pleasure was The League on FX.
I don't think that's much of a guilty pleasure. A lot of people find The League very stimulating. It's
I watched it until the last
comedy.
season when it became a DraftKings commercial.
I know, right?
We got any more questions? Or?
Well, just to break topic real quick, Sunjoy is asking, Dan, last episode you were on, you praised the HP EliteBook. Any recommendation of a high-end EliteBook but not mad costly? Is the EliteBook folio worthy?
That's That's a good question. I have to remember back. That must have been a couple of appearances ago. I mean, it's still a good line, but I don't recall off the top of my head what they have going on right now.
Here's another last-minute question that just kind of passed through from APEC, and this is an interesting thought. Since we talk about how Facebook's become so video-obsessed, and how pretty much everybody's video-obsessed, we shouldn't isolate Facebook in this. But now that they're watching this group party, do we think Facebook's going to go down the premium service line and start allowing for paid rentals? Like an HBO type thing?
Yeah, or YouTube where you can buy movies on there.
Right, they're all pretty much doing this now. Google Play, YouTube. You can pay for premium and Prime. I wonder. That doesn't seem like it's that far off.
Or incorporate the services within it. Like you guys had you guys kind of hinted at a great idea, which is if you're a Netflix subscriber and your friends are Netflix subscribers, you can cast a video within a Netflix movie within Facebook and all watch it together.
I think Facebook is going to stay to its like free model for a while now because like instead of charging you to watch this show, they could probably charge advertisers to like once they build up
But
the
didn't
number.
Spotify work like that? Couldn't you share something on Spotify easily and listen to it together through Facebook?
I think so, yeah, but like I don't think you
that.
paid for that though. I mean, unless
Maybe.
you pay for Spotify.
Yeah,
but that's
maybe
different.
if you had that just for paid subscribers.
that's
That was
more-
back when Spotify was still kind of trying to build a name for itself,
Yeah.
though. And
What was the one where you could DJ for other people?
Plug.dj.
No,
I used that
way
a lot.
before that.
Oh, okay.
There was a great one where you just go in and you'd like DJ for like a room full of people online.
I totally remember what you're talking about. It was essentially the great granddaddy of Plug.dj.
Yes,
It was borderline identical.
Yes.
And I was crushed when that went away.
Yes, I was in there all the time,
Fun.
rocking my rare groove.
I did like Plug.dj though. I used that in college a lot.
By all means and purposes, it's the exact same thing,
Okay.
to my recollection. But we are out of time. We are not going to be on tomorrow. We are not going to be on Monday, but you can still subscribe and pick up the audio podcast if you're around. Dan, thanks for jumping in and filling in since Ben Fox Rubin was out today. We'll have Roger back next week.
My pleasure.
And yeah, that's the latest on our updates. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Have a terrific rest of your weekend. Alfred, you want to take us out?
Sure. If you liked what you heard today, check us out on CNET. The 359 podcast is also available on FeedBurner, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher. This is completely out of the order. The Amazon Echo, and I believe that's it, right? Am I missing anything?
I think you got it.
All right,
And
cool.
If you like podcasts, you can check out our roughly quarterly CNET Book Club podcast on all the same platforms, also on video.
What
Great
book are
point.
you doing next?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Old Man and the Sea.
I joined that book club.
But Dan,
get
what was-
Hemingway on.
What was the
last?
last one?
The last one was Jaron Lanier, the VR pioneer, who's also written a lot of best-selling books.
And we will link to that in
Ooh,
the
nice.
show note description below. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
See you.